Okay, Chris here, Lama again. Second call.
Second call.
Second talk, call.
Talk, it's all the
Yes,
same.
talk. Yeah, and yeah, today we're going to talk about like how to generate revenue in the industry and also how to build relationships. Super important. So yeah,
Relationships first, then comes revenue. But yes,
there you go.
we're
I said it
done.
the other
That's
way
it.
around.
Wrap it up.
Yeah. So to start the call, like you want to make a brief intro about
Yeah,
yourself
I can
for those that don't
reintroduce
know you?
myself to all
Yeah.
the new people. Welcome to our second chat. I'm excited to be here. My name's Chris Lamarucciola. I'm the esports manager at Conestoga College. Go Condors. Um, I've been in the industry for, I think we're coming up to 9-10 years. I can't even remember. It's been so long. Grassroots, professional, now into the collegiate space, kind of working around all the amazing things we've got going on. We've got facilities. We're building a 10,000 square foot arena in our college to go along with this wonderful hub that we have, the 3,000 square foot hub here. We've got media. I'm currently in our production room. We host events, and then of course we have varsity and academy teams in our portfolio, and then just in the hub back here we've got drop-in daily gaming that goes on until it's varsity hour later on in the day.
Amazing. And to all your students back there, okay, like what advice do you give them in building relationships, especially during their university years for when they start in the workforce?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it all starts in this room when it comes to relationship building, whether it's with other students, finding people who are connected to things that they also enjoy. A lot of friendships get built in this space. Talking to administrators who are coming in another room, different professors, and engaging with them. Um, I am one to bring partners in here pretty much all the time without any warning as well. And I try to get either whoever's working at the front or our staff that are working to, have some time with them to discuss what they do instead of me telling what those people are doing, just to get that connection. And then you never know what opportunities are going to come out of these one-off visits or these future relationships, right? I try to even keep a good long-term communication relationship with my old professors at my old college. I think it's important. I like to know what they're up to. They like to know what I'm up to, and you never know when you're going to need to tap on them for something.
Yeah, especially yeah. That's also what I tell my students. Like the best you can get, like yes, is the information that you learn, but also like the relationships. And I always tell them, add me on LinkedIn, leverage my network if I can help you, and if I can get the internships or jobs, whatever, like that's super important. So, yeah, and also
Exactly.
like the students around them, okay, because they're gonna grow together, they're gonna graduate, and I did some business with like students like in my bachelor's and masters, so and if you build those relationships, they're probably going to end up in the same industry that you are in, because you're studying the same thing. So
Well, yeah, if
that's
they're,
super key.
especially if they're in the hub here and they're interested in esports or they're part of our esports program, like they got to kind of live in this space and understand it all and engage with the events that we're hosting and the media that we're producing and whatever else it is. So, my big thing I've always said from day one is like, you need to be present, you need to be around, because you never know what's going to happen. So
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's like, just also like being consistent in your work, and opportunities come. You have to be able to spot them, and as was it, staying in the game and spotting opportunities. So yeah, amazing. And in terms of your relationships with the partners, okay,
mhm.
going away a bit from students, like how do you make sure they like align with your values, okay, like the behavior that you expect like your students to have, like all the staff, like how do you make sure of that? How do you make sure to attract the right ones?
Yeah, I mean that's a very important thing, and that goes across. What are the departmental values, and then
Hmm.
also what are the college values, right? So,
Yeah.
ensuring that everything aligns with our strategic plan across both athletics and recreation, esports, and the college.
Hmm.
We have a pretty robust system to make sure we're having those conversations with not just our department, but the sponsor and donor department at the college, our marketing department. Everyone's kind of involved, the finance, to make sure they've got a good background check. We want to work with brands that are gonna, if they're promising us something or we're promising them something, we want to keep each other, in line. We know how the esports industry can be sometimes with payments or whatever else it is. So making sure all of this is done, and then really, like, I guess to kind of kick off the greater conversation here is, I'm not normally going into a first conversation with any kind of brand asking them for a boatload of money. I try to start general relationships with, like, let's do a tester with these students, this group in the esports hub. Maybe you're new to collegiate esports and you don't understand the value of it, but let's get some product in hand. Let's get some chairs as samples and get feedback going, get some surveys, whatever it is. Have you heard of this brand before? Have you used this brand before? Have you considered buying this brand before? And then actually get it here and in hand. And then depending on what the response is, that's when we start developing a greater strategy where we need X amount for maybe this event for funding. We want this amount for scholarship. We want you to host this event or whatever else it is. And that's when you start asking for more, but you need to put a base together first, right? I think when a lot of traditionally professional or amateur esports companies are going right after the money right away, and that's not how you build a relationship. That's actually how you destroy a relationship, is you ask for this money, whatever, whether it's $2,000 a month, 5,000, 10,000. We ask for this money. We tell them and make this great promise that we're going to have 100,000 impressions this month on your product, or this many clicks to your website, or this many sales, and we're struggling to get those numbers, or we have to inflate them. Or you were talking before the podcast about impression farming. How can I get this many views by doing something? And there's no actual value coming back to the partner. So again, start small, build those conversations, invite them to the spaces that you have, let them chat with the students one-on-one, and then go after the money afterwards.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And it, like, what advice would you give, like, collegiate esports programs, like, to run leaner? Like you mentioned, like, the partners, like how you can build those partnerships gradually, but like, what are other, like, mistakes that you are seeing, that programs? Because, like, I see a lot of complaining on social media, about, like not being funded enough, like there's not this opportunities. And can you tell us a bit, like, how you adopted, like, the lean startup model, like, for example, like, and you
Yeah,
also
for
mentioned it.
sure.
So
I
yeah,
mean, I came
maybe you
into
can
this
just,
position,
yeah.
I'm, and one addition added 25% to our full-time staff, right? So now we have 4, which I guess seems like a big program for collegiate. We have a handful of student staff that are working in our hubs, doing media stuff, working our events, all of the things, which is great. Some programs probably don't have that as well. But I think if you look at the traditional model, and it's very different, again, I think we talked about this kind of last time. The traditional model is so different in the US as it is in Canada too, especially in the collegiate level. We're limited to what we can offer, even in a scholarship range in the traditional sports, to a few $1,000s, where in the NCAA, I don't think there's any limits, right? And there's years and years and years of established branding opportunities and fandom and all of that. From the esports sector, we're kind of starting from scratch. A lot of these programs are, if you're lucky enough like us to be under athletics and rec or other schools marketing programs or student unions or whatever else it is, we're still starting this really from the ground up. If you look at a school like St. Clair, they've been around much longer. They have a very great system similar to ours, with their facilities, with their teams, with whatever else it is. But it's not like they overnight, give us this much money and we're going to make this happen. They've been developing over time, and you're now seeing the success of that brand and that team. I think that for us, we're going with the ebbs and flows of the collegiate sector right now and seeing what works for us. We might not be the best team in North America, but we might have the best production in North America, or we might host the best events. And we have to figure out what niche we want to fit into. And in my opinion, those are the revenue generators versus the teams that might be highly competitive. So figuring out where you want to land, what you want to do, what you want to host, and then build up from there. Obviously, we want to be number one in everything, but right now that's not sustainable, and it's
Mhm.
not attainable. So those two things together,
Yeah.
until I come in maybe and say, okay, well, we got $100,000 of scholarship this year or sponsorship this year that we can put towards scholarships and event hosting. And then we can use that on top of the budget that we've already been allotted by the college for the year, right? We have to prove the concept in order to be able to get more from the college. If I ask for an investment, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, and this is just the way I was raised in
Hmm.
business and whatnot, that if I'm getting paid a certain amount of money, I'm given an expectation of a budget, I'm always in the mindset that whatever my budget is, I want to like 2, 3, maybe 4x it for the future. So then I can ask for more in the future and then hopefully develop more business. And that's just kind of how the cycle works. If I can keep this as a, you know, cover our costs, cover our all of everything in the space, then next year when I ask for more, I'm going to expect to continue to cover those costs, right? That's just how my mind works. Just because the school's giving us a budget doesn't mean we, number one, need to spend it, and number two, you never know when that's going to go away. So why not have a safety net?
Yeah, 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 for sure. And like, what are the main ways that you monetize with all your facilities and all the opportunities that you give to students and stuff? Like,
Yeah.
how do you use your infrastructure?
So funny enough, and I mean, no trade secrets here. I'm trying to be as
Yeah.
open as
Mhm.
possible for everyone. The hub right here, right now, is completely free for students. They're not paying any ancillary fees. There's nothing associated to their. This area was built. We're giving 3 hours for free on the PCs every single day. They get an hour and a half on the consoles. They can drop in. All of our varsity players get to come in after hours. And I don't know if you could, right, like in this section right here is our varsity
Mhm.
table, and then everything on the other side is like a free play, or the teams need to be booked by their coaches for game day or whatnot. And then we stream out of this room here. So there's no like revenue through the student body. I don't know if
Okay.
that will change. I don't know if things are going to change. The athletics building in most schools come with an ancillary fee, right? If you're on the campus, you're charged whatever the amount is per month or per term, and you go in for free. It's nominal. It's like it works out to like 50 cents a day or less, right? You get full access to the gym, all the great things. Um, so that's an opportunity, right? Um, Bringing in third-party events, which we've done before, where they can host either a white labeled event, white glove, we like to call it, event, where we have the student staff, we have all the production, the space, the computers, everything. They don't need to bring anything on site except for themselves. And we can host an event. We could charge for that. We've done boot camps for professional teams. We had a team called Elevate come in before the Rainbow Six major in Montreal, rented out the space. We also have a kitchen, not a kitchen. We have a full culinary school in this building, and there's
Okay.
a full service restaurant down there. We have opportunities to cater food for our events, for the boot camps, and it's not just like going down to I don't know, whatever name X fast food place or Uber Eats, whatever you can. We can actually give a full meal for the teams. We have
Yeah.
water. We have a fridge that we bought for our boot camp space so that people can keep their snacks in there, or their drinks cold, or whatever it is. Um, on the media side, we're going very heavy into YouTube right now, aside from Twitch or other platforms. We're still streaming on Twitch, but YouTube kind of archives everything for you. Plus, there's a lot easier way to monetize off of your content once you hit the partner program. What else? I guess continuing with facilities. Merch is a big one that's coming.
Yeah.
I'm a merch guy, if you know from my past. We used to have too many jerseys, lots of lifestyle merch. I want students to look like how Chris looks today when I'm walking through the hallways, whether it's Conestoga branded merch or Condor's branded merch.
I mean, you're the leader, so you're
It
gonna put the
starts
example.
it starts from the top, right? Like you have to
Yeah.
I'm bought in, obviously, but I have to get the rest of the group here to, I want to see them in merch and all the stuff. And then when they wear it outside, people are going to be like, "Oh, Condors. Who are the Condors? Let me look up." And then we've got athletics, we've got the programs, we've got esports, all the stuff. It all comes
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. I must say your content and your graphics are on point on the social media. Like when you post, like one of the topics or programs, in terms of content.
Yeah,
Like the
we're
one
trying.
the other Canadian college that you mentioned also is amazing at content and has a lot of staff like you are building. So
Mhm.
so yeah, and content. And I did write a post, like I don't know how months ago, about like how international students, okay, uh don't know, like, yeah, they may know the Ivy League universities, in the US, but like they don't know much about universities. And when they do when we make them do the research, okay, about, a university that they're about to have a call with, okay, the first thing they look is at the social media. And
Mhm.
if the website is on point and super engaging, okay, and if the social media, portrays students, portrays like is active, that says a lot. And many students say like, yeah, it was, yeah, but like the web page of social media was like a bit like, so I don't know. And that creates distrust. And it's not because the university might be bad or not, but it's just like, what, like the image you portray on social media.
And yeah, and
And
that comes back to like that whole staffing conversation, right? Is it's hard to do even with, we have a media coordinator who works out of here who's, heavily focused on the media side of things, with the production and how that looks and how we're presenting. We have myself, we have Zach. We're in the weeds of kind of everything, and then we've got Yuri who's operating the hub as the facility coordinator. But we have to lean on the students to do a lot of those other things. The social media is a student-led initiative. Um, I'm there to advise and tell them like this is from my experience how we should be looking on esports social media, on Twitter, on X, on whatever, on LinkedIn. I control the LinkedIn because you got to put the corporate hat on for that. Um, but one thing I talked about this year was let's simplify things. This term was let's lean into the great content that's being put out or the great pieces that are being put out actually on our athletic side. We adopted their entire graphics package on social media,
Mhm.
and we started adding in a more human side of our team, more images of the players, more quotes, more video clips of on and off stream, and just making sure that, yes, we're Conestoga Condors, we're Condors Esports, whatever you want to call it, but there's human students that are here studying, playing, they're in our spaces. Like, if we want to get more student attraction, then we need to talk about the students that are here. When they start here,
Mhm.
why are you here? What are you planning on doing when you leave? And then following up after they leave, what are you doing a year later? All of this needs to be captured. And that gets the student interest, which then, sure, if you want to talk about, you know, people signing up to your program, international students, domestic students, whatever, sure, that's all revenue opportunities for the school. But I'm trying to think from my perspective of all the other peripheral opportunities that we have, right? And that starts with
Yeah,
that media.
yeah, of course. And another thing I wanted to touch on is like how focused are you on building, like relationships with pro teams for boot camps, for internship opportunities, for the, like what's your stance on that? Because like I see bit by bit, some pro teams doing some partnerships with Collegiate. I see it's an amazing if done
Shout
correctly.
out
Okay, but
Maryville,
like
right? I think
luminosity, yeah,
say it. Maryville's doing a
yeah,
great. They just signed with Dark
yeah,
Zero for NACL, and they just announced a second roster.
hmm
Like Clarky's cooking over there. I don't know what
yeah,
I don't know what he's doing, but he's locked in on that kind of stuff. But
hmm
it could be good. It could also be. I don't want to put ourselves into like a corner with one specific organization. Um, Not saying it's a bad thing. I think what they're doing again over there is fantastic. They have that idea and that pipeline of development from the collegiate space to the pro space, which I think is another conversation. Um, I don't know what the business deal is there too. Is the company or the pro team offering scholarship back to the school, which then helps support them to build stronger, better teams as time goes? Is there an exit strategy for those players once they graduate to go to the professional scene, which is great for them? Not enough players are going from collegiate to pro. We know that's quite the opposite in most cases. I've had enough conversations with Clerky too, and kind of everyone on social media about this need for a pipeline long term. And that pipeline will actually help support the businesses and build a stronger case for the future. If we can convince people to go from high school to college, get a diploma, and then graduate and go to pro or whatever that timeline or pipeline looks like. We're still
yeah,
years away from it, I think. Um,
yeah,
on the pro side, to go back to the question, we have relationships through my network of pro teams that are looking to come here for a week for a pro boot camp, or send one player during visa issues, because that's happening a lot now too, especially with all the political stuff that's going on. To get into politics, but it's taking longer and longer to get visas approved. Um, Canada has been a great place for players from Europe to come for a brief period of time before they go to the US during that process, but it's still complicated. So I've had a few calls with teams that are like, we need a space for a couple days, or what's the cost? What can you offer? And if it works out for us, it will. And then I think once we have the arena open, we'll have a second space here. And with like privatized areas, so we'll be able to accommodate that more frequently. If a team ever wanted to host an event with us, great. I'd love to do combines and things like that too for pro teams that are looking for engagement, whatever that might be. But again, I'm not sure if I don't know if we're ready yet to lock in with one organization. We haven't done it yet, so it's hard for me to say.
okay, okay. And most of your students, are they like the ones that work in the esports program? Do they want to get in the professional gaming and esports industry, or are they're just utilizing the knowledge and talent to work in the program? Like,
I think
what's
there's a good
what's the
mix of
ratio?
students. Yeah, I think on
Okay.
that, like the ones that are actually studying in the esports program, they're there for that specifically, right? They also kind of get like first opportunity to work in our spaces.
hmm
So they're working in the hub, whether it's on the production side or on the production side, or as hub staff or event leads or whatever it might be. So they want to be engaged. They want to be part of this. Um, Now, the good thing is, and we know that most of the skills that you're actually learning in esports are also transferable to other programs, to other businesses, right?
hmm
And I think with the talent and the experienced professors that we have, which are mostly us that work in esports, um, they're learning that we've built our programs out, we've built this relationship, and now we can further it and give them the opportunities that they need to work.
Amazing. And um, how do you talk to students? Because like you mentioned, especially before this talk, that many of your students like were studying,
Mhm.
their own podcast, building their brand. I mean, I think that's the best thing that they can do to like build relationships, because especially when they graduate, or even when they're in university and looking for an internship or a job, if they have a community, if they have that authority, like they're more likely to make, the conditions towards
Yep.
a company rather than the company, having all the leverage
Yeah.
over
I
them.
mean,
So yeah.
I'd love to have all my students work for me. I wish that was possible. Like after they graduate, it's easier when they're students because we have programs that are developed for work integrated learning or student staff, all of the things.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, they're also limited to how many hours they can work in the space. But when I'm communicating with these students, again, kind of going back to what you said at the beginning, like leverage me, leverage my experience, my network. I have no problem putting a LinkedIn post about really cool work that our students are doing. Also, it makes the program look good, which is even better. But I'm probably, I try to be as honest as possible when it comes to the hardships that they might find in the traditional esports industry
Mhm.
outside of the collegiate space. Um, as much as they need to be active, they need to be open, and they need to be around, like I said before, right? So it does come a little bit back to how much social media you do, um, how connected you are to teams and organizations. And if they can, again, lean back onto us who have those networks, then it might be an easier in for those opportunities. But we both know it takes a lot of work. It's um, sometimes a little bit of who you know, but there's going
Yeah.
to be more opportunities in the next little bit with colleges and more programs popping up. Um, and if they want to live and learn in this collegiate scene, it can be sustainable as long as, you know, the people who are administrators or the decision makers at the college believe in esports, and we can continue to prove this concept over the next 2, 3, 5 years.
Yeah.
That's what it takes. It's still a concept. It's not, let's open up a hub and we're gonna get 10,000 students to come sign up for Conestoga. No, there's work that needs to be put in, and it comes from all sides of it.
Okay. And how do you make a university believe in your concept, and also ask for that revenue? The budget. I mean,
Hmm.
and you've said something very, very important, okay, about your values being the same as the values of the university and the
Hmm.
other departments. That is something that Lucas from Oklahoma Christian wrote when he was going away from his program,
Hmm.
okay, and that's something that he wished he could have like implemented more. So like, can you go a bit deeper into that, because like you're
Yeah,
actually doing it? So
yeah. I'll try
I,
to
I, I would like to hear that.
Okay, I'll try to answer that part first, about
Okay,
like
yeah.
the strategic plan, right? And making sure things are aligned. We have administrator meetings once a month for athletics. Again, we're under athletics and rec. So we have these
Mhm.
administrator meetings, and every month we pull up the strat plan, making sure that we have all of their things, everything's aligned. We're checking everything off. We're making plans for future developments of what we're doing. And as the college has their own plan, how does their 3 match with our 4 or 5? I think it's 4, might be 5. I should know this better. Um, I've been in full swing of our awards ceremony with Zach over the last month, really. But to continue that is, if we're bought into the college strategic plan, how are we going to now showcase this? So the biggest thing is, we always are sending off what we have, the Monday message board that gets sent off to the entire college, all of our good news stories that are going on. We write something up, we send it off to the message board. Sometimes we have other administrators come and ask us about things that are going on. Sometimes we send stuff off to the larger executive team when there's really important things that are happening. Let's talk NACE finals that are coming up, right? We have a Canadian organization that needs to travel to Florida, um, for the NACE finals. With all of the political stuff again that's going on, how difficult is that going to be? We have to get the buy-in from everyone all the way up to the top. Make sure that everything's, um, as expected. We have the right representation and all the things that are going on. So if it, number one, wasn't budgeted for, which I think we've built in a good enough budget now to know that there will be travel. There's expectation to travel to the US more than in Canada right now. How are we going to do that? And say it wasn't budgeted for, how do we now get the approval to go to these events from the college? And we have to show what we've been doing. We're not just, we're not literally, no other way to put it, we're not just playing games here in the hub, right? I'm on
Yeah.
the phone with everyone. I'm on a podcast. This is business development, in my opinion. I have meetings booked with business partners coming in. Again, the award ceremonies that are coming up for us on Friday that we're going to be broadcasting, the president's going to be in the room from the college. We have multiple levels of executives coming that we've invited as VIPs to the event. We have our partners coming to the event. So Blacklight, they're coming. They're going to be giving a prize to one of our students. We've got LG Canada coming, the monitor TV company. They're coming to the event. They're going to be giving some prizing
Yeah.
out for the students. All of this is how you get the buy-in from the rest of the college by, number one, doing good work, but you also have to talk about it internally too and let them know they're not looking at you all the time. They're not looking at all the hundreds of departments or programs that are going on, but just like I say, when it comes to going to events and being present so you're remembered, you have to do the same thing at your own program, your own school, right? It's important.
Yeah, yeah. What you mentioned about like events and partners, that got me also thinking about some like the panorama that's going on. Also, like um, professionals commenting in like there's not enough exposure being made by collegiate sport programs before the LAN event, in the LAN event, and after the LAN event. And how do you think like you can fit the partners, like you mentioned, LG, uh, Blacklight, okay?
Mhm.
Like, how do you think you can, like maybe incorporate them, and also like in the near future, if they get that exposure, like oh, ask for more money, maybe, like
Yeah.
how can you?
Again, it's building that proof of concept. I'll use another one that we just did. So
Yeah.
last week, was it last week? I think it was last week. We hosted what was called the Campus Cup. It was a
Hmm.
FIFA or FC 25 or 24 event where it starts as a intercollegiate event. We have an esports event coordinator who hosts micro events every single day at different campuses. We have multiple different campuses. So each campus had a micro tournament for a qualifier, then to come here for a grand final event. Knowing that it's FIFA, who's our best partner, which would be Toronto FC, which is sponsored by BMO, Bank of Montreal. So BMO has a gaming department called BMO Next Level. I have a good relationship with Sean from BMO. So I sent him an email and I said, hey, Sean, we're about to host this event. We don't have a ton of analytics. This is what we've been doing. This is the concept of the event. We'd love for you guys to get involved. Okay, send me off, whatever you can. What the size of the event, the past analytics from the last one, and I'll see what we can do. A week later, we had some stuff sent over. I got a package in the mail, 2 pro Toronto FC jerseys, 4 tickets to any Toronto FC game, and then a bunch of other swag to give away for the students.
Hmm.
All it was an email. Me and Sean met on a podcast a few years ago. Stay in touch a little bit here and there on LinkedIn or on email. And I said, hey, this is what we need. And they sent it over. We can't give out cash prizes for our small events. We used to give gift cards. We're not doing that anymore either. So what's better than 2 $200 jerseys from our regional team and 4 tickets to go to the game with all this stuff? Put their logo on stream, gather all of these analytics, again, use it as a case study for future brands and events. Boom, there we go. Huge. And it was simple. All it took was one email and a continued relationship. Now, I know next year we're going to make this bigger. We're going to have the arena. This is going to be more of a public event. We have 400 seats that we can fill for an event. FIFA is a wanted event in this space. Are we allowed to charge for spectators? Are we going to charge people to host booths or whatever it is? We bring in Blacklight as a sponsor. We bring in BMO as a partner or whatever it is. And we continue to build these things up. They don't just get built overnight. And again, the easiest way to have a no in your inbox is by asking for money immediately, especially with no proof.
Mm-hmm.
And currently, and this is no offense to any program out there, but nobody has a big enough following on Twitch or a big enough like CCV or whatever it is on Twitch or even YouTube afterwards for brands to even want to give you, multiple thousands of dollars, other than maybe activating in a space where you have thousands of students engaging in the space at a time. They want eyeballs, they want impressions, and they're getting more impressions here daily than they are on anyone's stream. And that's just me being completely open and honest.
Amazing. More clear than that. Yeah. And okay, like before we wrap up, Chris, like, is there any topic that we missed regarding revenue relationships that you wanted to touch as well? Yeah.
I think that like one of the big things is, I kind of said it before, is figuring out what of the core niche that you want to fit in, right? If your program wants to be the best team in North America and take down Maryville or take down St. Clair or whatever it is, that's going to come with a big investment, right? These guys have done the studies. They know how to acquire top talent. Winthrop, whoever else, whatever teams you want to throw in that list of the top, 8 teams in collegiate. They know how to get the student value, but how do you, as a new program that's developing, like where do you want to fit? For me, again, I think that our key, and you've even mentioned it, that our social media and our media are great. If that's what's going to help develop our program more, that actually directly supports our educational programs with our esports media program and our School of Business program for esports business management. Those help fund and feed, not fund, help feed our ecosystem here with students that want to work in the spaces, develop their work experience and whatnot. And then it will feed into the team's longer term. It's just going to take a little bit more time. But in order for me to do business development, I need a surrounding business around me, which is facilities, events, and media. Those 3 keys. Teams traditionally are a burn, especially if you're giving scholarships and whatnot. But if we can generate revenue to then fund the teams and develop stronger teams, then without question, we'll develop those and make that happen.
Yeah, amazing. Are you for less teams or having like more teams? There's like different approaches now in the collegiate scene.
I'm on the side of less teams right now. We only have 4 varsity teams, 5 on paper. So we have Valorant with Valorant Game Changers, which is on a break. It's like break term because they don't we didn't have enough players. We have Call of Duty, which I think is our flagship team, which we've been more what's the word I'm looking for? Intentionally recruiting for that team. And they made to NACE finals, so it obviously the proof of concept worked. So top 8 in NACE. They're in the Super Conference, all the stuff. We have League of Legends, and then we have Rocket League. So those are our key varsity teams. We've included now FIFA or FC. I got to get used to that. FC and MLB
FC,
The Show. Those are
Yeah.
2 new additions to varsity as more of a test, and it worked. Both guys have been very successful in their games. We just won the, I guess, ECAC varsity MLB The Show, and we're still going. I think we're into the semifinals on EFC with one of our players. And then the ad for all of them is, if you win a championship with the Condors, you win yourself a nice Condors gold jersey. That's only achievable if you win the like your league. It doesn't matter if it's varsity, academy, whatever it is. If you're representing us as a structured team, you win, you get a gold jersey. Easy as that. Yeah, and then like I said, facilities, media, events. Those 3 keys will unlock that 4th, which will be teams. Less is more, my opinion. I can't keep track of, and I don't think any student who's running your social media or whatever else can keep track of 30, 40 teams. We're not at that level yet. Coach Alney posted on Twitter today about the traditional sports model versus the esports model, and I was like, yeah, but we have too many teams. We're trying to do too much, and yeah, we're small. We're small, lean teams. We have 4 staff. That's a lot. It's impossible. There's only 5 days in the week, and sometimes we're at events on the weekend, and you can't get staff, or you can't do this or whatever. It's crazy out there. So until we establish like an actual plan and we start running this a little bit different than how people want to, then it's a lot. I'm trying to come in from a completely different perspective from the private sector, and that's what I'm bringing to the table, and I think it's being heard through the team. It just takes a little bit of time to like come in and make changes when things are already established, but it'll come.
For sure, having like multiple video games, like especially like in collegiate esports, not like traditional athletics, in the sense that like they just play all year round, because all these leagues that are there and are popping, you know. So it's like, instead of like having a season, a preseason, you know, like a bit more structured, like it's driving like you guys crazy. Like if you don't know how to, you know, put your boundaries and select well where you want to compete and what teams you want to have, you know, it can drive you crazy. Just
I'm gonna give a shout out to Bernard from Humber. They're close to us. Humber took the first term, the fall term, no competition. They came into in January to April with their competitive teams. I don't know if they're going to do that again and replicate this year after year, but I love that idea of developing your team over time, getting everything set, and then playing in one season, just like you would have in traditional sport. We only have basketball 1 season of the year. We only have baseball 1 season of the year. And esports athletes are playing from fall to April all the way through while they're studying, and there's a lot going on. So it's a lot.
Yeah. Can you repeat your main 3? It was events, facilities.
So four core pillars would be facilities. So hub and arena. Future facilities at other campuses are part of the plan. Media, which is broadcast, social media, YouTube content, long form, short form, all the stuff. Written word. Events, whether they're hosted, like IP, we own the IP of the event. Shared IP, which we have Waterland, which is with us and the University of Waterloo. And then any third-party event that wants to come into our spaces to operate anything. This year we did one with a company called Beyond the Summit. We did City Showdown. Mango and Zane, you know, the famous Melee players came here. They were here, played for $5,000 prize pool that was sponsored. 10 locals came and competed for $1,000 side pool. So that's a third-party event. And then the last one is our teams, competitive teams. Don't have to explain that. I hope I don't have to explain that. But varsity and academy, those are our two levels of competition. And then anything casual just happens here in the hub. But we also have those casual pop-up tournaments with all of our satellite campuses, where every day or whatever it is, they can come and go play for a couple hours on a console at our satellite campuses until we have hubs at those campuses. But it's good to see the buy-in.
Just one last thing before we wrap this up. It's always like,
always
I'm like, I never continue, but like, for those people, those leaders that are starting their esports program in the school, how do you decide is it because of your own experience, or is it because of the university? Like, how do you decide if you want to focus on, because you said in order to progress you have to focus on one thing, either competition, like media, or like how do you decide to be like a competitive team, or like focus more on like content and media, or focus more on broadcasting and production and be known for that? What would you say are the parameters? Is it,
It's,
yeah,
I mean, it's stepping stones, really. I mean, I can't
okay.
speak for this program 5 years ago when it was first started.
Mhm.
And it's changed when Zach came in as the supervisor of operations, and it's changing again with me now, as the manager, and working directly close with Zach on, what makes the most sense here. We have the people, we have the media coordinator, we have the facility coordinator. So we've got those pieces, but we're missing parts of the org chart to make it super successful, right? But that comes with, let's take a step back. Things are changing in the collegiate climate across North America, with students coming to the schools or applying for programs or whatever else it is. So we have to be very aware of what's going on in the community. And then again, what can we bring in externally to make this all work? But if you're just starting out and you think that a team is going to be the driver for the entire program's success, I think that's not necessarily how it's going to work. It could be, I could be wrong, but what else can you do? You're not going to convince a school, you'll be unlikely to convince a school to open up a 3,000 square foot esports space immediately and make it work. Um, but it's not hard these days to create really good content around the teams that you're building. So you could do teams and content to start, talk about facilities with your administrators and with the decision makers who are going to make those. But you're probably, even if you get those conversations started, you're probably years out from actually having a fully built out hub. It can start in a computer lab somewhere else, or an open room that's not being used at the college. You can lean on opportunities with brands and sponsors that could help kickstart your program. You need 6 computers. Call a brand up like Asus or Corsair or whoever else, Dell, maybe Alienware, and see if they're able to support or donate old tech or old programs that are running stuff. And that's, again, that comes to the connection of, what's your relationship with your administrators and decision makers at the college? Get them to buy in, get them to be involved, keep them CC'd on emails, all the things, just so they know what's going on, because just a loaded thing about what you can do, right? I don't CC
Mhm.
my boss on an email to be like, oh, look at what I did, or what, like, a little bit of it is that, right? But sometimes he might see an email that gets sent off, ask a question about it, and say, oh, can I introduce you to this person at the college that you might not have met yet, who can help you close this deal? Absolutely, no problem. So it's all interconnected. But yeah, starting small and then expanding is the best way. And you said very early on in this call is about burnout. The fastest way to burn out is by doing too much all at once, burning at both ends. Um, I've had to take a stance of like, this is my job, right? I enjoy coming to work every day, which a lot of people probably can't say that they love going to work. I love going to work. Um, I love working with the students that we have, but I can't go home at the end of the day and be thinking about all of these different things like I might have in the startup world. And I think that a lot of administrators or managers or directors or whatever their role might be, who might also be students at the same time, which is another conversation I think is insane. They are like trying to make all of this work, and that's when they're burning themselves out. I see comments on social media all the time. I need to take a break from this. I need to step back from this, or whatever it is. And they don't have the support, and they need to start asking for more support, or they need to start, call me, message me on Discord. How are you doing this? How are you making this happen? I'll be open and honest. I don't sugarcoat anything. But at the end of the day, it's all, it all comes back to what relationships and how we're communicating and doing things together. So there's no right or wrong, right? What I'm doing is works for my program, what
Mhm.
Clerky's doing works for his program, what Sean at St. Clair's doing works for his program, and everybody else. But you have to figure out what works with you, and then going back to what aligns with your college and whatever department you sit under. Everything needs to work, puzzle pieces, and you will be successful. I don't want to see any more programs closing or leaving or struggling. There's enough opportunity here for us to be all successful.
Yeah, Chris, amazing talk as always. Hopefully the third one is soon enough.
Anytime for you, Ivan. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity and the platform that you give. I'm available whenever the next hot topic comes up, but
Leave a comment.
leave a comment and we'll make it happen. But thank you again.
Amazing, Chris.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.